So YouTube, is Clormo with another Logic Pro X tutorial talking about Alchemy Note Property Modulators. This is one of those modulators from obviously from the modulation section that does not have a tab or a graphical representation. So instead of me going in there and tweaking some parameters, I'm gonna try to make this real quick and just go through the list of parameters that are available and what each of them do. So having said all that, as usual, if you're seeing one of my videos for the first time and you like it, please subscribe to my channel to keep up to date. Like this video, you kind of like it. If you didn't like it, you can comment, give suggestions and all that stuff. As usual, also a lot of thanks to all of those that have been keeping supporting and subscribing recently and all that good stuff. If you want to see more of my work, you can go to any other of my social media platforms and see my writing there and see all the little things that I'm doing, and hopefully you like as well. So to keep it short, let me just go right into the Logic Pro X tutorial window. The Alchemy Note Property Modulators, what that's going to do is that it's going to give you several properties of incoming MIDI note data, as well as values generated per note by Alchemy, and all of those are available as modulation sources. So like I said in the beginning, there's no note property control panel display, so there's nothing here. You can see right away there's no property modulator tab to select. So that's one of the things that you have got to keep in mind when dealing with it. It would be confusing if you have gotten used to seeing some graphics, some kind of display here. But anyway, what we want to do to be able to access it is there's two ways we could, and I'm still carrying the same settings that I have for the sequencer from the last tutorial. So let's say that I want to add some modulation, and I can go to Note Property, and these are all the parameters. This is basically what I'm going to talk about. So you can either do it that way, or you can go to always you can go to the modulation rack and do the same thing. Go to Note Property, and you can go through each of them. So it's not a short list by my standards, but I'll try to do my best to cover this as quickly as possible without giving you a headache in the process. So let's see, first one, velocity. It's a modulation based on the velocity values of the MIDI note data. Remember, this note property, it's all tied to all the MIDI data that you have in your piano roll, for example, or any track that you have some MIDI data constructor already, or that you can play live. The key follow fixed, it's a modulation based on the incoming MIDI data, incoming MIDI note numbers to be exact. So it's going to be similar to key tracking, not exactly the same, and that's why I use the word similar. Please do not confuse those. The modulation value increases as you play higher pitches on your MIDI keyboard. So that's why in my mind it's similar to key tracking, but it's not the same. So this is a bipolar source, and the root note C3 is going to correspond to your 0. Following that, there's the key follow fixed, and then there's a key follow, another key follow that's supposed to be the key follow porto with the portamento. So what that's going to do is similar to the key follow, but the modulation value is going to glide to the value of higher pitch notes. That glide value is going to be determined by the glide parameter in the master voice section. The master voices section, it's up here, and there's your glide if you don't remember that. Aftertouch is a modulation based on polyphonic aftertouch data. Speed is a modulation based on the elapsed time between the notes. And it's a progressively slower sequence of notes that's going to result in progressively greater modulation values. So very important to have the concept of timing with this speed modulation clear, because a slower sequence is going to give you a greater modulation value. So that's not probably typical or a natural mindset in the case that, okay, so if I'm gonna make these notes go slower, why is my modulation gonna be greater? I would think that if the speed was higher, then the modulation will be greater, because I'm gonna be accessing all the parameters faster and creating the effects faster. But just keep that in mind. This is a little bit different. Held is a modulation signal that rises to full scale immediately when you press a note, and it's gonna fall to zero immediately when you depress a note. It's similar to any other held type of command, so to speak. Flip-flop, I like the name of this one. Flip-flop is a modulation signal that's alternately full scale and zero on successive notes. So it's gonna alternate from full to zero as you go in your keyboard or your MIDI notes that you have already in your track and your piano roll and all that. So flip-flop 2 is similar to flip-flop, but the value is gonna reverse every 2 notes. So you're gonna go, for example, like 0 0 full full 0 0 full full in a pattern. It's gonna keep repeating. There's a note that I want to make here is that both the flip-flop 1 and 2, these two modulators, can be used together to create a kind of a round robin between the 4 sources. Remember round robin from the groups in the edit window, so it's kind of the same thing. Then you have the 4 randoms. So they can all be explained with just one explanation. It's that these are modulations that are based on a fixed random value per note, per MIDI note. Remember MIDI. This is a unipolar source and has values from 0 through the full scale, which would be, if I'm not mistaken, 127. The 4 random sources are independent of each other, which is good because you can add in the modulation rack a few of them and have a different effect on your source or whatever it is that you're modulating for that matter. Pitch bend, I don't think I really need to explain that. Pitch bend, it's obviously tied to the pitch bend or the pitch wheel that you may have in your keyboard. So it's a modulation that's based on mid-pitch bend messages. So when you're moving around that pitch wheel or that pitch bend, it's gonna behave. This is how this modulation is gonna behave. Then max, it's a modulation that is just based on a full scale note. So would be 127. And then we have the polyphony. It's a modulation signal that is larger when there are more notes playing, and it's smaller when there are fewer notes playing. Pretty neat to play around with how many notes you have on a certain track that you want to apply this modulation to. Technically, the current number of played notes is going to be divided by the total polyphony that you have in your notes or per note individually. This parameter may be useful for reducing the volume, and by that I mean the actual volume of the velocity, right? When there are a lot of notes that are played, the polyphony is determined by the number parameter in the master voices section. So hopefully you're getting the gist of it here. The parameters in your master voices section, which are the ones that are gonna do the output of your notes, some of those parameters are gonna affect your different parameters in turn inside the Note Property Modulator. Then last but not least, there's this ARP mode A1 and 2. And if you guessed ARP to be an arpeggiator control, then you're absolutely right. That's what the ARP acronym would mean here. The assigned parameters here are controlled by the arpeggiator. So the Polymod 1 and 2 menu assignments in the arpeggiator correspond to these parameters. So if when we get to the arpeggiator in the performance section, we're gonna see these two guys again. And really that's all that there is to cover as far as this modulator goes. In the next video, then I'm gonna be talking about this perform, which is also another one that's just a list and there's no actual display. That should be an even shorter video than this one, but hopefully gonna find value in it. So I will see you in the next video. As usual, thanks for the support. Peace out, YouTube.